Hey everyone, this is Lynn Vartan, and you are listening to the Apex Hour on KSUU Thunder 91.1. In this show, you get more personal time with the guests who visit Southern Utah University from all over, learning more about their stories and opinions beyond their presentations on stage. We will also give you some new music to listen to and hope to turn you on to some new sounds and new genres. You can find us here every Thursday at 3 p.m. or on the web at scu.edu/apex. But for now, welcome to this week's show here on Thunder 91.1. All right. Well, welcome in, everyone. Welcome to the Apex Hour. It's Thursday afternoon here on the campus of Southern Utah University. And as you heard, you're listening to KSUU Thunder 91.1. My name is Lynn Vartan, and today on campus, we had our annual, what we call live court, which is actually such a cool thing. The Utah Appeals Court holds a session on campus during our Apex events, but it gives me a chance to do something a little different for the radio show, for the Apex Hour. The judges are off doing very judiciary things, and so I get to have sort of a dealer's choice here for topics. And today we are talking about books and reading. And I'm so excited to have some friends and colleagues here in the studio to talk about their relationship with books and reading, and hopefully give you some inspiration for what to put by your bed or by the pool or wherever you choose to read. So let's start with some introductions. We'll start with ladies first. Anne.
Hi. Thanks for inviting us, Lynn. So I'm Anne Diekema. I am the department chair of the library and also an instruction librarian.
Awesome. How long have you been at SUU?
Since 2015, so over 4 years now. Still loving
cool.
it.
All right. I know. And Anne and I have a little private special affinity because we have this exact same glasses, which I love. So, okay, continuing on with the introductions.
Hi, my name is Christopher Clark, and I am the engagement and outreach librarian here at SUU.
And how long have you been at SUU?
So I've been at SUU for a while. So I started at the library in 2012, and I've been faculty there since the beginning of 2018.
Okay, cool. And tell me just a little bit about what it means to be an outreach librarian.
Sure. Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like in its most obvious sense. It's just reaching out. It's a lot of event coordination, working with other departments, working with other faculty members, and just the community and students to try and make sure that students and other faculty and community members are aware that that the library isn't just a building, that we're here to kind of help in a variety of ways, and that includes with just cluing them into cool things that are going on and putting on cool things and showing them different resources.
And I think I heard, speaking of events, that there's an event coming right up. Maybe you could tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Monday, since our theme is talking about books today, we will be putting on Booktoberfest, which will be in the library lobby starting at 1 p.m. And we will have librarians there and bookmarks. We'll be doing some reader's advisory if you need suggestions about books. And also we'll be giving away free root beer. So if you just want to grab an A&W or whatever.
Oh my gosh, totally I love it. And tell me again the time.
It'll be 1 p.m. and it will go to 4 p.m.
And this next coming Monday, which is, I think, the 14th. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So anybody listening live, I'm sure it's open to one, come all, and check it out and get your next book suggestion and some root beer. And finishing out our introductions, let's tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, Lynn. My name is Matt Nickerson. I'm the library director and associate dean of the library. And I know what you're going to ask. And I want to say it because I'm proud.
Yeah.
This is my 30th year at Southern Utah University. In fact, it's my 29th year because I started at Southern Utah State College.
Oh my gosh. Well, happy anniversary. And for those listening, Southern Utah State College was the previous name of the school. Mm-hmm. So you've seen it through.
Absolutely.
You know where all the secrets are.
I know a lot of them, but of course we started back in the previous century. So 30 years may sound like a lot, but the university or the college has been around a lot longer than that.
Well, welcome to all of you. I love to read. I love books. Whenever I have friends over, we're always talking about, what are you reading right now? I know Anne is used to me asking this question to her. I'm always saying, what are you reading? What are you reading? And I just have tons of books, but I'm always looking for the next great read or perhaps a favorite that I haven't read. And so we thought we'd do kind of a round robin and maybe start with each of you giving us a suggestion of a favorite book or one you think everybody should read. So, Anne, do you have one to start?
Absolutely. So, one of my favorite books, or at least a book that has had a really big impact on me as a dog person, is called Merle's Door: Lessons from a Free-Thinking Dog, and by Ted Creosote. And it's actually, Merle really existed. He's a real dog. And it starts when he finds Merle as a stray dog on a river trip and adopts him. And Merle goes on to teach Ted that he has a social life. So I always, like you probably, we are the social directors of our dogs. We decide when they eat, sleep, walk. And the author lives in Teton Village.
Okay.
In a national park. And the dogs there just roam free. And they have dog doors. That's Merle's door. And they're just like teenagers. One day they just go hang out with the dog next door, and then they decide to go for a swim in the river. It's amazing.
And is it told from the dog's perspective, or?
No, it's from the person's perspective and how he's learning from Merle.
Wow.
You know.
About how to be social.
Yeah, how to be a dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's, we were talking with Julie Castle, the CEO of Best Friends, and she was relaying some stories of how people always say, I got this dog and it taught me this and it saved my life. It taught me. So, but this is kind of unique. It's teaching you about like social behaviors. So does he learn sort of how to hang out with others?
I think he learns how to give his dog more free rein because they are people too, in a way.
Yeah.
So after reading this book, I now have I've had a dog door ever since.
Oh, really?
Yep. So
and you don't worry about them bringing stuff in? Or?
No, I don't. And they're contained in the yard, but they can at least decide, do they want to lie in the sun or do they not? Do they want to stay inside or outside? They can do whatever they want.
And how did you find out about this book?
That I don't remember. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one.
That's okay. Well, tell us the title and author one more time, and we'll make a list of these and put them on the website.
It's Merle's Door: Lessons from a Free-Thinking Dog by Ted Creosote.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Chris, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah. So one that I'd really like to recommend because it's one that was personally very important to me, and also I think it's just a good example of a piece of science fiction for people who never read science fiction.
Cool.
Is Light by M. John Harrison.
Okay.
And it's a really unusual book to try and describe, but basically it involves 3 different timelines in the present day, and then in the near future, and then in the far future, and it follows 3 different characters, and the way that their narratives kind of intersect throughout. And it's one of those books that the narrative kind of takes a backseat to the experience of reading it, in terms of like the prose and just the imagination of it. And also, it's important to know that the author of it, M. John Harrison, kind of comes from a background of the British New Wave science fiction from the 60s, which was very informed by kind of the anti-establishment politics of the time, very much into the social sciences over the hard sciences, and using kind of poetic prose and stuff. So it's definitely kind of like evolved from that subgenre.
Okay, and so the act of reading it kind of compels you and sucks you in right away.
Yeah, and that's what's really great about Harrison's style is he's actually written all over the place. He even wrote a really great nature book called Climbers, just about mountain climbing in the UK. Especially in the Peak District, and so he was actually really renowned for that. So the science fiction element, he kind of takes it and makes it very surreal and sensory and kind of experiential, which is not common for a lot of science fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say that it's kind of one, if anybody's listening and sort of wanted to get into science fiction, it's kind of a good one for that, or is it more for the diehard science fiction guru?
I think it's a good entry point for people who aren't necessarily drawn to science fiction itself, just because the characterization is so good, the prose is just really sharp and really interesting, and the things he does with narratives, especially in making it nonlinear, are just really fascinating. So if you're somebody who likes like a David Mitchell, then you'd be really drawn to it.
Okay, awesome. And do you remember how you found out about it?
That's a good question, and I have no idea.
That's fine.
No
I
idea.
mean, I'm always just curious. I don't remember how. I mean, I have so many books, which also begs the question I want to ask you guys at some point: is hard copy books or Kindle readers, e-readers? You know, it's sort of this really contentious, I guess, a little bit. You know, but we'll get a few more recommendations in. Okay, Mr. Nickerson, what recommendation do you have for us?
Well, when I first got your invitation to talk about what books should people read, I maybe went a little different direction. And even after talking to my colleagues, I was like, well, I've always been different anyway, so I'll just stick with my different interpretation of your invitation.
I love it. That's great.
So if I'm thinking, instead of asking the question, what is the latest book that people should read?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, instead of the latest, perhaps the oldest.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'm a humanities teacher here at Southern Utah University, and I believe to fully understand all the great books that are coming out now, we have to have a better we can be benefited by having a better understanding of great books or wonderful fiction or great creativity that was written way in the past. And so instead of starting with the latest, let's go back to the very first work of fiction or mythology. So I want to suggest to people to go back and read The Odyssey by Homer.
All right.
You know, another great artist that had just one name. You know, it wasn't started by Madonna, let's face it.
Well, the Odyssey is just, tell me why you think that. Because I agree and I love it. I'm glad that we have such a variety. That's exactly what I was hoping for this conversation.
I mean, so if you took a criticism of a modern novel or a modern thinker, and then you look at their bibliography or their schooling or their education or who they modeled their work after, and then you took that previous generation and modeled what did they model their work after, and you kept going back. If you're talking about Western culture, and we can talk about the new global culture, which we should be more focused on in the 21st century, there's a lot more out there than the West, and we could talk about that. But as long as we are here, and I'm a Western European white man, and I suffer from all that biases, I think it helps us to know where did the biases and the interests and the love and the creativity of Western white men come from. If you trace it all the way back, it's going to stop at Homer.
Okay. Well, I want to ask, what about people out there who
or
might
begin
be...
at Homer, sorry.
Begin, that's good, yeah. I want to ask, what about people who are a little bit intimidated or afraid? What do you say to that? Like, what if people feel that they can't understand it?
Well, this is what they got to remember, is that it was written a long, long time ago, and it's probably the product of oral tradition, but the oldest copies are written in Greek. So if our readers out there in Radio Land don't read Greek, they should remember they're going to be reading it in a modern translation of whatever language. It's been translated into virtually every modern language. So as you're looking for a translation or you're looking to read Homer, test them out and find a translation that speaks to you. I think every translator has that job of trying to capture the original work and the original ideas in the modern language to which they're translating. And as long as we're talking about librarians, we recognize that a translator's work, her work is just as important as the original author.
So
and when
true.
we are creating bibliographic records, the translator is a primary author just as much as the first author who wrote the original work. So we recognize, as you mentioned, the translator is super important. So if you think, I'll never understand Homer or the ancient Greeks, you will. Find a translator who translated into your first language now, test a few out, and it's immediately accessible. That's why Homer is a great work.
Okay.
It's immediately accessible to you as it was to the people who read it in 600 BC.
Timeless. I love it. Okay. Well, that's our first round. We did it. Yay. Good job. So I've got a song, and I don't even know how I stumbled across this album, but me and my obsession for world music, and currently, people who know me well know I'm completely obsessed with Irish music, Irish drumming, particularly the Bowron, which is a drum I'm really excited about, and planning a trip around and all of that. But I have a song here cover. It's called Nemesis, and the artist is Catherine Tickle, which is Tickell. Check it out and see what you think. You're listening to the Apex Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1.
Nemesis, dark-eyed daughter of justice, reign in the insolent whinnyings of men. Bridle them who rail in vain against your adamantine reign. Drive out pride, drive out envy and vanity. Life wire, pride slayer, who tilts the balance of life. Justice, you come in oblivion's cloak to walk beside us and see you tread at our heels with frowning brow. Our proud necks you bow, hold the scales in your hand, blessed Nemesis. Life where pride slayer, who tilts the balance on life where pride slayer, who measures and life where pride slayer, who tilts the balance on life where pride slayer. Nemesis, dark-eyed daughter of justice, reign in the insolent whinnyings of men. Bridle them who rail in vain against your adamantine reign. Drive out pride, drive out envy and vanity.
All right, everyone, welcome back. That was Catherine Tickle, officially Catherine Tickle and the Darkening. And that album is called Hollow Bone, if you want to check it out. It's really cool. It's just a bunch of kind of modern takes on some Irish music, and I really like it. This is Lynn Vartan. You're listening to the Apex Hour, and we are talking about books today. But I also want to mention a little bit about the podcast. If you're listening to this, you're probably listening to it from a podcast, and we would like to encourage encourage a call to action from everyone to download as many episodes as possible. That's one of the way that we are tracking the success of the podcast here through web services at SUU. And we would love to encourage everyone to support it by, of course, leaving a rating, but also please download the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so we can keep our great radio show going. So welcome back to my librarian friends. And I'd love to start by kind of picking up the thread of conversation that we had going during the break, which is how wonderful it is to share books with others when you're maybe reading in a group and sharing in a group and talking about opinions and all that. And I think there's a lot of great book groups going on, and I'd love to hear some of your opinions about book groups, and also about which book groups maybe people can find if they're looking for. So, Chris, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'd like to plug the SUU book club, actually, which is a student-run club that I supervise for the students, and they completely self-select the titles they read each semester. Last semester, they basically did a theme of adaptations where they would read the book, and then we set it up to where they could watch the movie in our classroom in the evenings.
Awesome.
And so they did like Hidden Figures and
cool.
A few others.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. And if you're interested in being a part of that, you can just email me at christopherclark1@su.edu, and then I can get you organized with that group and on the same page.
And then that's mostly a student group?
Yeah, that's a student group.
Okay, so students out there, this one's for you.
Yeah. And outside of that, I actually do a lot of book group stuff just on Goodreads with so there are some fellow faculty members that I'm in communication with on Goodreads. One of our librarians, Rosie, is on there, and Jess Tavordi, and we always kind of swap book suggestions and ratings and that sort of thing.
Maybe you should tell the audience what Goodreads is in case people out there don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah. So Goodreads is basically an online public forum where you can go and read and rate books. And it serves a couple of really good uses. One, you connect with a lot of good recommendations and book people. And then two, it also helps a lot of up and coming authors get reviews and ratings out there to help their works get noticed. So.
And you can have shelves of things you want to read and keep lists and all different kinds of stuff.
Oh, and it's so fascinating because the groups that kind of find each other, they can have the oddest subgenres. Like you can find a whole list of like Iraqi cyberpunk books, if you're into that,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How cool. Okay. Are there other opinions about book groups or other book clubs that we should know about? Matt, do you have some?
You asked the question of how can someone get involved in a book group. So one way is, as Chris was saying, word of mouth, talk to your friends. But another great way to get involved in a book group is to start a book group. And in our family, my wife and I we're both involved in book groups. She started a book group when we first moved to Cedar City 30 years ago, and it's still going today. Hers is a ladies' book group. Women of all ages get together, and they read a book every month, and they come to someone's house, and they talk about it. And their book club is called Books in the Hood.
I love it.
It originally started as just our neighbors, but now it expands to even outside of Cedar City. Some people from St. George drive up.
No kidding.
To it.
How often do they read?
Once a month, I believe.
Okay.
And in the couples book group that we belong to together, we read a book every 2 months. And that book group, what I like about groups, you asked this, because the couples are quite diverse that belong to our group, and we think that's important for our group so that the advantage to me is then I have to read the book before I go to the meeting. I'll be embarrassed as the library director who doesn't read the book.
Right.
And I don't like the books that they read necessarily.
Yeah.
But I'm forced to read books that are outside of my regular genre, outside of my comfort zone. And lo and behold, sometimes I actually like a book that I thought I was going to hate.
Yeah.
So book groups are good to open our minds to new ideas.
And a couples group, I don't know why that hadn't crossed my mind. I've thought of book groups. I've been in book groups. I've thought of book clubs a lot, but I never really thought of a couples book club.
Yeah, because it's you get double your money because as you're reading it with your partner, then you have a miniature group of only 2 groups, and then you talk about it, and then you can fight or argue or agree. Then when you get there, she can say something. Well, Matt said I don't agree with. He told me this, but when I read it. And then you get all the couples going. It's pretty awesome.
Cool.
And our book group also has a dinner every night as we meet. And over the years, the dinner has become almost as important as the reading. So the current name of our club is You Don't Even Have to Read the Book Club.
I'm not sure that really counts then. I don't know.
But we all still read it. But the food is important. And books
Yeah.
bring people together like food bring people together. I think that's cool.
That's the beautiful part of it. I 100% agree with you there. Well, let's get to some more recommendations. So, Anne, can we start with you again?
Yeah, so I was just thinking what my first book was that got me into reading.
Oh.
And that was when I couldn't even read yet. And we were reading this, our teacher would read this book to us. It's a Dutch children's book, but it's translated into English. And in English, it is called Tow Truck Pluck. Oh. And it's about this little guy, and he doesn't seem to have any parents, but he has a red tow truck. Oh. And he solves all these kind of environmental problems.
How cute is that?
It's a really great book, and
but is it a kid's book?
Kids book,
kids book.
For sure. It's in the canon of the Netherlands, so it's considered a very important book to our culture.
Wow.
Yeah.
And once again, the title and author?
It's Tow Truck Pluck, by the Dutch writer Annie M.G. Schmidt.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
It's from 1971, and our teacher she would open all the windows, and she'd created a song about the book, and we'd sing the song, so all our mothers who were at home would hear that we were going to read that book, and she would read it to us. Yeah, and that was kind of my first book group, right? All my people in my class.
What a great story. And I'm sure we have some families and parents listening who are maybe looking for something to read and to their children, and this sounds like a great suggestion. Thank you so much. All right, Chris, we're up for your next one.
So I think the next recommendation I'll make is actually for a comic book.
Okay.
So I'm a very passionate advocate for comic books as literature. And so like if you know the history of the novel and how it emerged as a very middle class form and was kind of sneered at for a while.
Okay.
Especially in the time, up until Austen when it kind of became a little more legitimized.
Right.
So like pulp fiction and comic books became kind of like the de facto working class genre. And so like growing up in my household, we had a lot of comic books around. And one that I would recommend that is available in omnibus form is the Doom Patrol Omnibus, and it's by Grant Morrison, who's a British comic book writer. And it is just a fabulous, mind-blowing piece of work. It's at like 1,200 pages of
wow,
in the omnibus form, and it just follows a group of surrealist superheroes as they kind of face like different threats to reality, and it's super interesting because Morrison brought in a lot of his background in the punk scene from the 80s, and also just his own kind of like weird esoteric background in the circles he ran in, and so it becomes like this very interesting work of art, even as it also operates as a really fun text, and it does just a lot of like interesting things in kind of marrying the two. Now
you mentioned an omnibus form. I'm not sure I know what that is.
Oh no, that's a great question, because that's another thing that's really interesting about the comic book genre is that it's they basically publish issue by issue. And over time they'll collect the issues into omnibus. An omnibus of one kind
like
or another.
Like a volume or a collection.
And this kind of represents his run with that comic book, but there have been other writers before and since. And so it represents like a piece of a greater narrative that is also an enclosed narrative in itself. And so it's really interesting in that sense, because then other writers subsequently can go in and put their own spin on things and their own interpretations. So it's actually like an incredibly collaborative format, which is also really cool about it.
And when you purchase it, would you be purchasing that whole amount, the 1,200 pages, all at once?
That would be my recommendation, if you can. But you can also get them in slimmer volumes that are kind of like it's broken down into arcs, that you can purchase individually.
Okay, and again, the title and
it's the Doom Patrol Omnibus, and the writer is Grant Morrison.
Okay, got it. And the author one more time?
Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison. Okay, great. And the art, I'm sure, is amazing, and it sounds like it's a great combination of text and graphic beauty.
Yeah, it's the best book I've ever read about a painting that eats Paris. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just like you sold me on that. That's great. I love it. Well, thank you for that recommendation. Okay. And finishing off our next trio of recommendations. Wow. Where are you going next?
I think I'll just build on what my colleagues have already been saying, but stick with my story, which is art from previous decades or centuries that are still fun to read and still contributing to the overall conversation that is the literature of the West.
Love it.
And sticking with a translation again, it would be Don Quixote de la Mancha, who was written by Cervantes.
Yes.
And so it's important to me also because it's one of the first great works of Western literature that was not written in Greek or Latin.
Right.
So as the Roman Empire died and the Romance languages and the barbarian languages from the north started coming into their own and the Rome broke up into smaller and smaller pieces, artists began to write literature in these new languages that were formed as the Roman Empire broke up. And Dante would be one of them. We won't go there today. We'll go with Cervantes, who wrote this in the Old Spanish language. And it's obviously been translated. So again, readers, you can play with several translations if you're going to read it in English. If you are a bilingual or a Spanish person, and there's probably many of them in our audience that speak Spanish, try reading it in Spanish too. It's amazing. And I'd also like to talk about adaptations. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, but you've seen the Broadway musical, The Men of La Mancha, that's taking a few of the little stories that happen to the hero of the book. Right. And they've made it into a Broadway musical, which is hugely, hugely famous. And maybe that's a way you could take your first steps that would invite you into a great work of Western literature.
And is there something particularly about this story that you love?
I like it for lots of reasons, but I think, again, I'm just going into that great arc. If you go back to my original book, which was Homer, it's a book about a man, and sorry, everyone, because this is, again, the ancient patriarchal world we all grew up in. But he mentioned Jane Austen, and they did allow women to break out and finally contribute. And it was sad that we missed them for so long. But this is another story about another European man. But Odysseus, in the first book I talked about, went on these adventures. And it's a story of the history of his adventures and what we can learn about the human experience. And that's what Don Quixote is doing. It's his many little adventures. And maybe that's one reason why I find them pretty accessible, because you can break the story up.
Yeah.
And you can put it down and come back. And every time you come back, there's another small story. You're not in this big Tolstoy-esque book.
Right.
Right? And
cool.
So I'm gonna go with Don Quixote de la Mancha.
I love it. Okay. Well, I've got one also. People are always asking me about music, since that's kind of one of my little areas of expertise and what I teach here at the university. And I've been really enjoying and recommending a book called Year of Wonder. The author is Clemency Burton Hill, and basically what it is it's almost like a diary of a year, and so each page is a day, and it talks about a great work of music, and it encourages you to listen to that work on that day and gives you a couple little tidbits. But it's kind of like your daily guide to classical music, and it's some of his very, very famous pieces. Some of them are not very famous pieces, but it's kind of a nice, again, you can dip in, dip out, and check in and go like, this is recommending a specific Chopin piano piece. Okay, let me listen to that today. And it's sort of a nice little touchstone. So that's my recommendation for the moment. It's Year of Wonder, Clemency Burton Hill. But now I've got some more music to play for you. I played this band on a live radio show. We actually didn't make a podcast of it at the beginning of the semester, and I'm so excited about this band. Somebody in Australia recommended it to me, and it's a band called the Cat Empire, an Australian band that mixes all kinds of influences. And this song is called Hello. So check it out, Cat Empire.
Some evil in my eye and some thoughts in my head that were making me feel high. On my head was a hoodie, in my ears was some bass. I was walking around my dog when I saw that sexy face come towards me. And with a little cheeky smile, if she was a phone, I pick her up and dial the fire brigade. Oh, 000, she stole me my tracks. I said, hello, hello. Oh, hello. I was was sleeping in the sand with some dreams in my head that were causing an extension to the towel and my bed. And the waves were rolling like the curves on those legs, like that sweet beach pillow with a centerfold spread. In the midst of the slumber, heard some footsteps are creeping, and I woke to discover the woman I've been dreaming. She knelt down beside, said, "Can I share your pillow?" I rolled over and I said, "Well, hello, hello." Oh, hello, hello. Some like money making, some like cars, and some like the houses with the rooftop spires, and some like to gossip about some rich sugar daddies. But me and my friends were like the golden brown honeys, and some like watching people living on TV. That's a little strange if you're asking me, cause I like to eat and laugh and play down. Now these are the things I know. Well, hello, hello. Oh, hello, hello. Ah, hello, hello. Oh, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. I love how the end of that song is. That song is called Hello. The band is the Cat Empire. They're an Australian band that I just think is so fun. Oh my gosh. If you need to pick me up, put that song on. We are here today on the Apex Hour. You're listening to KSU Youth under 91.1, and we are talking about books and reading. So we'd like to do a little bit of some plugs for some events coming up. We know we were talking about the book event on Monday at 1 p.m. at the library, where you can come and get recommendations and some bookmarks and some root beer. But there's some other events coming up too. Chris, tell us what else we can find out.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, which will be October 15th at 7 p.m., on the second floor of the library in the Huntsman Reading Room, we will have what's called the Future Poetry. And this will be a discussion between Lee Modisett, who is a local best-selling science fiction and fantasy writer. Mm-hmm. He'll be in discussion with Danielle Dabrowski, who writes and teaches poetry here on campus. And she will be talking about everything that kind of falls under that theme. So experimental forms, what qualifies as poetry and the many different ways it can manifest.
Cool.
And she'll be doing some reading from her work, and there will be Q&A. So if you're a poet or you just love poetry or you're fascinated by it, then it's definitely worth checking out.
Or if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
And
it's not just for people who love it. That's why we're doing it at the library and at a university.
Yeah.
And for students out there, I always like to plug that these events do have free food. So please, come get some food, and then also edify yourselves while you're there.
Awesome. So that's at next Tuesday at 7:00 on the second floor of the library. Awesome. Thanks for that. Well, I also wanted to ask my question about, and it's more just playful than anything else. I think I'm asking because personally I'm having this existential struggle about e-readers versus books in hand. I really love books in hand, but then I travel a lot, and with the e-reader I can just have tons. So I was just kind of curious. I know it can be a feisty topic at times, but what do you guys think? Actual books or e-readers? What are your opinions?
Real books, baby. All the way.
Real books, baby. I love it. But so you all feel pretty strongly 100% about that?
No, I don't.
Oh, well.
But I'm old. And I own thousands. My personal library holds thousands and thousands of books.
Yeah.
But
so you like e-readers?
I do like e-readers. When I purchase a book now, I make a conscious decision of which way I'm going to go. In many cases, and there've been and I'm usually right. A book in hand is one that I want to return to again. Yeah. One that I might want to make notes in. One that I want to take with me and hold. If it's a quick read and it's more about the plot and more about entertainment, sometimes I'll get it on an e-reader. There have been a few e-reader books that after I got started in them, I went, whoa, I better go buy the quote unquote real thing. But like you said, traveling, I'm a person who used to travel for work or for pleasure, and my carry-on would have 5 books in it.
Yeah.
And now if I can have a Kindle and have 500 books, that's a big, strong selling point for me.
I know, that's it, exactly. You guys are both hardcore book?
Yeah, so I do come out on the side of hardcover, holding it, print copy whenever you can. But there are some positives to the ebook format, and one of those is especially for older readers, you can you can modify the font, right there, so you don't have to pay an additional surcharge for a large print book if they even have it available. And also it tends to be, more eco-friendly, right?
Right.
But I think the main concern, especially with ebooks, is that you never really own it in the same sense that you own a print book. It's licensed to you, and there's a whole subset of issues in the library all related to that and access. So.
And I think we might want to talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because in the library collection, we hold tens of thousands of ebooks also as part of our library collection. And students, we think, the students of the 21st century are going to flock to the ebooks.
Right.
They don't. Generally speaking, we'll show them at the questions desk all these books. Oh, that's an ebook, and they'll want to jump to a paper book, which is very surprising.
Interesting.
So another advantage to students or researchers out there of an ebook is when you open it as an electronic file on your tablet or on your computer or your phone, you can search by a word.
Yeah.
Try doing that in your 1,200-page paper book,
right,
and just trying to find where do they talk about whatever your topic is. Cool. As a research tool, electronic books can be super powerful.
Yeah, interesting.
And so I just wanted to give a shout out to people who are doing research, or students or anybody in the community can use the SU library. And if you run into an ebook, give it a try and try to learn what the plus sides of it if you already think you know the negative sides.
Well, I love asking about this topic. I just think it's kind of interesting, everybody's different takes and all that. But let's get to some more recommendations. So, Anne, we're going to come back to you. I'm always starting with you. Hope that's
There's one thing, though, that I do use electronically, and those are the audiobooks.
Oh, you like audiobooks?
I do, yeah, because you can kind of read as you're doing your dishes or walking your dog or whatever it might be.
Nice.
So I do listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
And if you go to the public library, you can get a free library card and download the Libby app, and you can download a lot of audiobooks and actually ebooks too.
Okay, cool.
I have to put a plug in for audiobooks again.
Okay.
Sorry, Lynn.
Let's hear it.
I know we got to move on.
When you're not listening to my podcast, of course.
And you can also listen to the podcast on the same listening device that you listen to ebooks on.
But so you like audiobooks
so
also?
I listen to ebooks when I'm working out also. And again, it's that quality, and do I want to hold on to it, and do I want to own it?
Yeah, right.
Or just license it? So there's been a case when I've been listening to an ebook and go, no, got to have the real thing.
I like it. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, Anne, what's your next recommendation?
All right, so Matt just mentioned the human experience of the white male anyway. So one of my favorite authors, so in general, is Anne Patchett.
Oh, yeah.
And she has a whole series of fabulous books. I just think she really understands the human experience and what it means to be us. And she's also very cool because she was really worried that the independent bookstores were going away.
Uh-huh.
And, so you have the big Barnes & Noble, the big stores, and all the local bookstores were just going away, and people just order on Amazon. So she started her own bookstore in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been to it, and it's fantastic.
Wow.
Another nice feature, there's dogs in the store, like her dog's in the store, and the other people who work there, all the dogs are just wandering around.
I love it.
But yeah, it's a great bookstore, and with a fantastic selection, because that's nice about the independent bookstores. They don't just have the big commercial titles.
Right.
They have stuff that's good and interesting to read as well.
I didn't know that about her at all.
She's fascinating.
Cool.
Yep. And she just has a new book out. It's called The Dutch House. And it's nothing to do with Holland. Just
I know, I was going to say.
Just a coincidence. Okay.
And I haven't read that one yet, but I read the previous one, Commonwealth. Fantastic.
Okay. And what's Commonwealth about?
It's about these two families that are merging because their parents are divorced and get together, and all the problems.
Wow.
The relationship problems and the sibling issues. Fascinating.
Okay.
And then from a music perspective, her book Bel Canto.
Oh, yes. That's great.
It's a really fantastic one, too.
Okay. And Platchett and Bel Canto and Commonwealth are two recommendations. Thank you for those. All right, Chris, your next recommendation.
So I think the next one I'll recommend is actually a book of short stories, because I think short stories are another form I'm really passionate about, and I would like to see people reading more of it. And this is a recently translated collection. The author is Mariana Enriquez, and the collection in English is called Things We Lost in the Fire.
Ooh.
And it's actually a really great October reading because it features a lot of ghost stories and a lot of kind of like ghoulish, shiver-inducing stories. But also what makes it interesting is she's very much writing from the perspective of being a lower-class woman growing up in Argentina. So it's very much informed by South American politics from, the 70s up to the present day. And it's really fascinating. Sometimes it's very harrowing, but it's also kind of blended with the fantastical, right? Because she's also writing in the tradition of like Borges and Marquez and, and some of these magical realists. So it's a really great book.
Oh, this sounds great. Yeah. And remind me the title and author again.
Things We Lost in the Fire, Mariana Enriquez.
Okay. And she's Argentinian. Oh, that sounds exciting. Cool. Thanks for that one. All right. Back to you.
Wow. I think I will just quickly recommend for reading one of the great works of Western literature, one of the first great works in Western literature in English, so you won't have to read it in translation if you are an English speaker. And if you're not an English speaker, I will just have to apologize, because I still believe translations, no matter how good they are, and translators are amazing in the work they do, it's very difficult, and I would say impossible, to truly bring the spirit and the soul of an artistic work through the translation process. And it would be Milton's Paradise Lost, which if you want to start with a work that's written in English, that's had a huge impact not only in Western literature, Western philosophy, but actually to the world, try Paradise Lost. Of the three I've mentioned, it might be the hardest to get into, but I'm still going to recommend it just for that case, that especially if you're an English speaker and you're part of the Western tradition, I think you owe it to yourself to at least give it a try and try to find out of a great work written in the native language. If you can't do that, then you can move on to Shakespeare, and then that'll do you for it.
Okay. I've never read that. I've never read it, actually. I think I absolutely should probably dig in.
Or give it a try, Lynn.
I know. I will. I'm inspired. You haven't read it either?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
it's
we know.
very much allegory and Christian, and so it's a little different.
So we know what our next read. Maybe, Anne, we should start a book club and begin with that. You think it'll be popular? Let's see. All right. Well, along with short stories, I have a recommendation that actually one of our past guests recommended to me, and it is a group of stories. The title is called Americana, and the author is Hampton Sides, who's just a fantastic author. And it really just kind of of took me because it's an incredible stories written so well, all about random small moments in Americana. So it starts out with the story of a skateboarding empire, and then it talks about this sort of island community where men go for holiday, and it's super private and super elite, and about sort of breaking into that. And then there's some stories that have to do with Utah. There's just all different kinds, and they're really interesting topics and really interesting stories. And that's Americana by Hampton Side. So that's my recommendation. We are almost out of time, but what I'd love to do is go around maybe one more time really quickly and do one more, either a book that you have read or maybe one that's up next for you as well, one that you're excited. Okay, Matt just seems so excited. So let's start with you.
No, I'm weirdly excited about this because I've just been going on and on about the value of understanding the evolution of thought and literature in Western culture, but I've recognized in myself a huge lacuna, huge bias. And so I've started reading one of the great works of literature of China. And it's called The Dream of the Red Chamber.
The Dream of the Red Chamber.
And it's already amazing and captivating. But even through translation, I already feel that constant discombobulation that this is not Western. It's awesome.
Is it a modern work or is it one of the
18th century?
Okay, so
it's not classic. ancient, but I'll move back. I thought I wanted to read something. It's considered one of the 4 great Chinese works of literature, and I didn't want to go too ancient for my first little dabble.
Okay.
18th century. My translation is called The Dream of the Red Chamber.
Okay, I love it. You sound so excited about it that I have to go check it out just based on that alone.
I haven't got far enough into it, but enough to know it's going to be awesome.
Okay, perfect. Well, back to you. We'll go reverse direction. So, Chris, either another recommendation or one that you're excited about getting to in the coming weeks.
Oh gosh, there's something on the TBR pile. I'm not sure where to go. But I think I would like to recommend Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, just because it's one of those difficult, daunting books that I try and recommend to as many people as possible.
Okay.
With the caveat that the first time I read it, I got about halfway through, and I've never come so close to throwing a book against a wall. I was so frustrated.
Really?
And then a few weeks passed, and I couldn't get it out of my head, so I just decided to pick it back up again. And I read it in a couple of days, loved it, and I think it's brilliant. It is.
Well, okay, so this is not a story that I know. Gravity's Rainbow. Can you tell me a little more?
Yes. So Gravity's Rainbow is probably Pynchon's best known work. He wrote it in 1972 or 3. I'm trying to remember, and it won the National Book Award. And it's kind of following the same style as Moby Dick, and he has established a theme, and he has written 800 pages of variations on that theme, following the madcap adventures of this private in the army named Tyrone Slothrop. And it slips in between so many different genres. It starts out as a comedy, then it becomes a war drama, and then it becomes a science fiction story, and then it just becomes a whole slew of bizarre other things, including religious allegory, fable.
But what made you so frustrated with it the first time round?
Well, and this is an experience that I think a lot of people might experience is that sometimes a story doesn't do the thing you expect it to do and doesn't follow the narrative rhythms that you expect it to follow, and that can be frustrating because we expect it to do a certain thing and it doesn't.
Right.
But if you stick with it, sometimes it can be immensely rewarding, and
cool,
very good.
All right, well, thank you for that. I'm going to check it out. All right, and you're going to close us out here.
All right, so I'm in a book group too, and it has a lot of faculty members on it and retired faculty members from SUU. And the next thing we're going to read is, so I haven't read this at all, okay? It's called This Land, How Cowboys, Capitalism, and Corruption Are Ruining the American West.
Whoa, that's intense.
By Christopher Ketchum.
Okay.
And so in my book club, we take turns recommending books. So this book was recommended by Dr. Kelly Goonan from Outdoor Recreation.
Oh, yay, Kelly. I know her well. And so is it fiction? Is it
nonfiction?
Journalist? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. All right. Nonfiction. Well, you're going to have to report back to us on that one. This Land. And the author again
Is Christopher Ketchum.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I interlibrary loaned it, so our library doesn't have it. Mine is from the Davis County Library, but Christopher, who's sitting next to me and orders for English, thinks he may order us a copy.
Yeah, I actually did see that title come up, and it sounded really interesting. So
Okay, great. Well, I just want to take a moment and say thank you guys so much for being here and sharing all of these great recommendations. I love it. I've gotten a whole bunch of new titles to put on my list. And again, we want to make sure to remember the great events that are happening on campus next Monday, 1 p.m. at the library, next Tuesday at 7:30. And just to take advantage of reading, and maybe we'll have you back and talk about how to make reading more a part of our life, because I know that was something we even wanted to get to and didn't get to. But for now, everybody find a book, get reading, read for fun, broaden your mind, broaden your horizons. And with that, we will say goodbye from the Apex Hour, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the Apex Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1. Come find us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. for more conversations with the visiting guests at Southern Utah University and new music to discover for your next playlist. And in the meantime, we would love to see you at our events on campus. To find out more, check out suu.edu/apex. Until next week, this is Lynn Vartan saying goodbye from the Apex Hour here on Thunder 91.1.